Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I apologize about the time situation. The GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar program knew that I wanted to start at 9 o'clock Arizona time. It just thinks that Arizona is still in Mountain Time. And in the summer, I am not. I am in the Pacific time zone. So I tried to hurry and send that information out to you, and it looks like the majority of you got that information, so I greatly appreciate your understanding on that. A few months ago, I did a webinar on the version 6 showing you the major changes that we had made, but we have been continuing on some of those enhancements, so today I'm going to show you as many of those as I can. Now, over on the GoToWebinar thing that you see on the corner on the side of your screen, there's a spot there where you can type questions. Feel free to type any if you have any. If I have time at the end, I will try to get to them. If not, I will call you back specifically and answer those questions for you. Could one person, that's funny, who's going to know who one person is? Would somebody please type right now there to tell me that you are hearing me? Someone just typed hi, so hopefully that means you're hearing me. Good, I see, I hear you. Good enough. I'm going to minimize that screen so that I am not distracted by it. So I like to know that you are hearing me before I do that. Thank you very much. Okay. The version that you are looking at on my screen is 6.00.015. When we give this out to anyone, it will actually be 016 because he's making a couple of other changes for me today. And then we'll start handing this out next week. So it'll be 016 when I give it out. All right, a couple of security changes that we made. We've now added on setup employees. If you go into any employee and look at their security level, oops, not a good person to look at. We now have added an item that says release credit hold. You can give someone permission to release someone from credit hold. Otherwise, Paymaster or all can already do it. But if you've got someone with a high security level and you want them to be able to release credit hold, or even maybe for a short time while the right person's on vacation or whatever, you can add that feature to them. Also, we have added cancel parts order shipment. So cancel parts order shipment. Someone with high can already do it, but if you want someone with medium to be able to cancel parts order shipment, you can add that. Another feature that was just recently requested, so I was able to get it put in, was to limit dboard to view only. They can't move the e-cards around, or they can't reassign them to anyone, or they can't time stamp them. It is a view only. Okay. We also have added one for view parts order parts detail. I'm sorry. View parts detail. What that does is it gives someone with a medium level the ability to see the stocking locations and the quantity in those stocking locations without having access to seeing your costs. Medium cannot see cost of parts, but at the same time, they were not able to see that you even had any in stock or where. So we've added that so that if you give them view parts detail, they will be able to see the stocking locations and quantities, but still not be able to see the costs. Okay, a couple of changes that have been made on the system options. For those of you already on version 6, you will realize that on the system options, we had changed it to just being one super long line. We decided we hated that, so we went back to the stacked rows. On the inventory tab, we've now added enforce insufficient stock. We've always had enable insufficient stock warnings so that if you tried to sell something from a stocking location that didn't have enough in stock, it told you that. But now, if you turn on this feature, there isn't the option of, okay, go ahead and go on. They simply cannot sell it. So that stops them from entering that part, makes them do the research as to why something is being sold that you don't have. This will stop you from ever going into the negative on any of your stock. On the agreement tab, we have now added for you to set it to, there we go. When you do it on GoToMeeting, it does some strange things. Retain agreement PO number on all associated work orders. So if you've got an agreement, a PO number on an agreement, turning this feature on will put that same PO number on every work order that you get created for that agreement. Without that turned on, the PO number on your agreement does not automatically populate on the work orders. Another item on the inventory tab is use markup and discounts on exchange parts. As you know, on your parts list, you've got a spot for an exchange cost and an exchange sale. That's to be used for such things as a core, or if you are the type of company that sell parts but do a 10%, 15% restocking fee. If you have this check marked, if that work order has a markup or a discount table attached to it, it will adjust those figures by that markup or discount. If you do not have this check marked, whatever dollar figures you have in that spot is exactly what it will use. Okay, now on the receivables tab, we've added the tax exempt status does not follow the billing account. In version 6, we made a change and said that if the billing account was tax exempt that or not, that is how the work orders would be taxed. Some states, some companies in various states said that that's not how that state works. If they're doing work in another state, they have to charge the tax no matter what that billing account is. So now we have added a check mark, so it's your choice in your company as to whether it does or does not follow the billing account. Also, we've added do not allow reopening of work orders. As you know, currently you can add a cost to a time and material work order and it will reopen it, making it necessary to re-invoice it. If you have this check marked and you attempt to do that, it tells you that that work order is closed and you are not permitted to reopen it. This stops you from receiving a PO to a closed work order or adding additional cost to a closed work order. This might be a feature that you would leave turned on unless somebody needed to do it, and it gives them the necessity to come to speak to a supervisor to make that happen. It can be turned off, let the thing happen, and then turn it back on. Okay, I think that's the majority of what I need to show you currently on that. All right, we have added under Setup, Service, Rate Sheets. You now have the ability to add some additional markup tables because we've now added equipment, subcontractor labor, subcontractor parts, and freight. Since many of you say that you don't mark up your freight, you just pass the exact cost on to your customer, or possibly just simply mark it up a very small percentage, you now can add a different rate sheet to items that you class as freight so that the system won't mark it up the same as it does any other parts or any other miscellaneous items based on the markup tables that you had attached to that. Okay. On work orders, let's go to view. On work orders, we've now added, recently we had added the up and down buttons on the register. We have now added it also to the estimate detail. So if you've done your estimate detail but you wanted it to look in a different fashion, you wanted things sorted differently, you can hit your up or down button and take it to where you wanted it to be. Okay. When creating a work order on a customer, you now have the ability to add an email here, or it will automatically default to the email that's on that contact. But if you want to simply make a new email here, you can, but it will not put that email on the customer. It is on this work order only. Okay? And from the D board now you will be able to send out an email by simply right-clicking on the e-card. So if that's the email you want it to happen to, then that's what you would put it there. Okay, but remember that this does not go into the customer records. It's on the work order record only. On the payment screen of a work order, we've added tracking number. That is user defined. It can be anything your company wants it to be. It's not in the system otherwise, but it is now there so that if you did want to do some kind of a report based on tracking number, a report could be created to use it. But it means whatever it means to you. From the D board, you can now email, and it'll show you all of the emails that are attached to that customer. You also can see attachments directly from the D board, and they have been separated. When we first presented this, it was emails and attachments, and it was limited to 20. So people were having problems because they needed more than 20 between the various emails and the attachments. So we've now separated. You can have 20 attachments or 20 emails and 20 emails showing. So by clicking on the attachment, it immediately can open up. And I don't have my email open currently during this webinar, but if I clicked on the email, it would open up my email and send one. Okay. One of the things that people have asked about for quite some time is now the mouse wheel does work on the D board. I know that you can't see that I'm moving my wheel, but that is exactly what I'm doing. You can see the mouse is staying in the right spot. I am moving my wheel. So the mouse wheel now works on the D board. All right, the biggest new feature with regard to the D board is that you can now open it up in a separate window, and then that window could be moved to a separate monitor. You simply check mark open in new window, and you'll see now that my D board has opened in a separate window, and I'm going to turn on the feature for you to see both of my screens for just a moment. It will be funny, but it'll look small, but you will see now that I'm dragging this over to my second monitor. And then I can make that full screen on my second monitor. So now I can work over here on my S2000, and I can be constantly watching my D board. Okay, I'm going to drag it back over here, and at the same time I could minimize both windows and have them sitting side by side on one monitor. Okay, let me change this back to showing only one monitor. Okay. Good enough. Okay, so the ability to move the D-board to a separate monitor. Again, that is D-board, open classic D-board, and just simply open a new window. And yes, you can do the same thing with the time-based D-board. Open it in a new window. I think everyone will admit that that is a fantastic feature that has been requested for a long time. And for those of you who were at our conference last November, you know that I said that I was still going to harp on getting that accomplished. So I'm thrilled to say we managed to get that done. Okay, we have added a new feature on work orders that if anyone wants this added to your license, simply send me an email and I will do this for you at no charge. We now have added custom fields. Now, unfortunately, the company who requested that we do this was specific about what they wanted it to say, so that is the way it is at this time. So if you are working with air conditioning, heating, food equipment, things of that sort, this information would probably work perfectly for you. If you are in a different industry, you could still utilize this, but internally you would have to make a determination as to what you want in each of these boxes. If you want this custom field turned on your license, send me an email and I will take care of that for you. Okay. All right. Now a simple work order can have an agreement attached. It's never been that way before, that a simple work order, because a simple work order is never billed, you couldn't attach an agreement. But there are times that you want to create a simple work order as a reminder on an agreement. So we have now made it so that if you have a simple work order created, you can attach the agreement to it. We had some not to exceed issues that we have now fixed. There was a couple of issues where if you did the up and down button, it would then think it was over the not to exceed when it wasn't, because the system was actually adding those dollar figures in the second and third time as you went past them. We also had another issue where it was rounding incorrectly because it was seeing things out in the hundreds and thousands of a cent, so it was rounding and saying you were over your not to exceed even though you were exactly on it. So those issues have now been fixed. Now if you create a work order and you realize that you've created it on the incorrect customer, as long as there are no costs on this work order and you haven't invoiced it obviously, you can now change the customer that it is going to. Now obviously on a maintenance call, PM call, you wouldn't be doing this, but last night when I went looking for one that doesn't have any costs on it, this was the one I found, so I'm going to use it. So I can take it and make it to Mark Waldorf. And if I go to look at that work order, you'll notice now that it is under Mark Waldorf. So work orders can be moved if no costs have been added to the work order and it hasn't been invoiced. Okay, also now on receipts, we were always getting questions on being able to make a change on the date of a receipt. Now you cannot change the date as long as there's a dollar figure. But if you will change the dollar figure to 0, and the system will make the appropriate journal entry to delete that money from the bank, then you can go back into that receipt, change the date, and then put the dollar figure back in. So rather than having to zero it out, make a new receipt, you can zero it out, change the date, put the dollar figure back in, and all the journal entries will occur appropriately. Some of you do realize that we added the ability to import into a purchase order from an Excel spreadsheet when you're creating a purchase order. Some people said that they have some seriously large purchase orders that they create regularly for a reoccurring order, and so we added the ability to import. We made a change to that import, and now it was only parts and miscellaneous that you were able to import. Now you can import subcontractor and freight and equipment. And you can now have it go to either a stocking location or a work order. It was always going to main stock. Now on the import, you can make the change and tell it which stocking location and which work order numbers. Most of you realize that if you have the import module, you have the ability to import from an Excel spreadsheet into your parts list to make any changes or anything of that sort on it if you want to make some major updates. On parts now, you have the ability to set a default product code, a custom product code on a specific part. So if on your majority of your call types, when you sell this part, you want the costs and the revenue to go into just simply parts, but this is a very special part that is supposed to go into something specific, you could have a custom product code attached to it, and that's what will be used overriding anything on a call type. This also now works on the parts sale, the parts order module also for selling on parts orders. The default product code works on both. If you have FSS accounting, our accounting, on a vendor, you now can change the vendor on a manually created voucher. So if I go into my vouchers and I can see that this one was a manually created one, it didn't come off of a PO number. So I could come in here and change it to going to Gossett. This is voucher number 162. So it's no longer here, and if I go into Gossett, you would see that number 162 now is under them. So if you created a manual voucher to the incorrect vendor, you can now change it. Okay, if you have the special module called Vendor Customer Price Override, that gives you the ability to set a specific price that you will sell a specific part to a specific customer for if you've made a special deal with them. But it also gives you the ability to set a specific cost that a specific vendor has promised you that they will sell that part to you. And when you create a purchase order to that vendor for that part, the system automatically defaults to the cost that you set in here. I have done a few on this particular part here, but the feature that I want to show you is that now we have on the pricing, oops, I thought I did it on this one. Maybe that wasn't the one I did it on. Oh, I'm sorry, I did it on base. Okay. On the pricing tab, now it tells you the name of the vendor and the price that they promised to sell it to you on. So we've actually listed all of the vendors here. So for those of you who said, well, I want to know how much it costs me if I buy it from this one or if I buy it from that one, and that figure differs from my standard cost. Yes, S2000 is still going to value your inventory at the standard cost, but you can look on this pricing tab and see what you expect to pay for it at other locations. Okay. On the inventory, under Setup, Inventory, Stocking Locations, we've now made it possible for you to right-click and adjust on-hand quantities for the exchange location and the warranty location. In the past, the only way you could do it was to actually create your purchase order, taking it back to the vendor. But in some cases, we know that you don't take those parts back to the vendor. The vendor doesn't choose to have you bring them back. You throw them away. So now you have the ability to adjust the on-hand quantities by right-clicking. I have a few miscellaneous items that I want to show you about. In the past, if you set up multiple PM tasks on a particular piece of equipment, and when those work orders got created, it would show you, for instance, it would say change filters, comma, change filters, comma, change filters, comma, etc. We've now changed it so that if the PM task is the same, it will only show it once. It will only show multiple tasks if those tasks are different. So if your PM work order is for multiple pieces of equipment and you had created a task on each one, in the past it would say change filter, comma, change filter, comma, change filter, comma, however many times you had it set. Now it will only say the change filter once. It will do a comma and do another task if you have a different task set up. We have increased the length of the email addresses in the system. We had people who needed additional characters. We were able to do that. We now do not permit unposted journal entries to show up on the bank reconciliation. We had an issue with that. On your invoice lookup, there is a column here for printed, question mark. After that invoice has been printed, it will change to a yes. Printed in S2000 means sent to a printer. It does not mean exported to PDF, and it doesn't mean brought up to the screen. It has to be sent to the printer. But if you are doing multiple invoices and you only send the first page to the printer, it still believes that all of them were sent to the printer. When you do a job profitability report, reports, service, job profitability, we've now added the other statuses. So if you wanted to only see ones that are waiting for approval or ones that are ready for invoicing or ones that are completed, because before that it was only the closed on up, we now have added those to that report. In version 6, we had added the feature that when you created a note, it automatically defaults the subject line to the item that you are attaching it to, but note that it comes up, the cursor comes right there for you to make a change if you so choose. But we had a problem that when you were creating a new invoice or a new work order and stopped at that moment to type in a note, it was putting a defective information in that line. So we've now made it so that that stays blank, and it doesn't default into something in that line unless you are creating that note after the item has been created. Okay. The other extremely large feature that we have now added is what's known as a work queue. This is the ability to move work orders into a set file so that someone who's in charge of that task or file can simply look at their queue to see the items that have been put in there for them. This can very easily take the place of having those dummy employees on your dispatch board for such things as parts to order and parts in. It can set up things so that you can have certain supervisors be made aware of things that they need to be paying attention to and things of that sort. To start utilizing the work queues, you will go to Setup, Service, Work Queues. you can then hit New and set up whatever you want. Now, the only thing currently that can go into a work queue is a work order, but that has been added so that in the future we can possibly make it so work queues can have other things go into them also, such as agreements or purchase orders or invoices or things of that sort. Currently, it is only on work orders. So you simply type in whatever your description is. Let's see. Whatever it is you want to type in, you hit next, and if you wanted to add some to it right now, you could, but normally most people wouldn't, and then you would hit finish. So now you have got that item in a list of your work queues. Then there are many times that you can put things in a work queue. Obviously, this is one of them. I could come here, and I could add or delete something from a work queue. But that's not going to be the main place that this is going to be used. You can also do it when you are creating a new work order. I also don't think that's the time it will usually be used, although I can see, whereas if you have supervisors who want to be made aware of everything that comes in for them or for their area or for something that they're in charge of, it gets put in their work queue so that they can go look at the listing of things that have come in for them. The majority of the time, I believe this is going to be happening from the D board. When you go to close a work order, you can close this work order, it's now going to pop up with this. It has always come up with the alternate work order number and the payment received, and then in version 6 we added time slot. We've now added payment method, description. So if the technician collects and you could say, how did they pay, and you could mark cash, it is not going to create a receipt. It's there for viewing or possibly for creation of a custom report. The description can be used for anything that you like, but technicians using the RFS product, the tablets in the field, will have the ability to run credit cards by swiping them, and possibly you would want them to give you the authorization number or something of that sort, or maybe the check number. So if they say, yeah, he gave me check number 55, you could type that there. Okay, but more so important is this work queues. S2000 requires you to set up a default work queue that all completed calls will go to. And that one I've set up as the review for billing. You will set that up under Setup System Options, and you will do it on the Work Order tab, Work Queue for Completed Calls. So whatever one you want all completed calls to go into, you can. Then when you complete a call, then you can add any additional work queues that you need it to go into. So your dispatcher, if your technician tells your dispatcher that, yeah, someone needs to order me some parts for this, or we need to do some parts pricing, etc., we can add it to that. Or if they say, well, this customer needs a quote on something, we can add it to that. So this is work order number 1835, and I'm going to add it to the quote needed. It's automatically going into the review for billing, and I can put it in multiple queues. Right now I'm going to simply put it under quote needed. Okay, it's number 1835. Okay, the call has now been completed, but now I can go to view, work queue view, and I can go into my quote needed, and I see number 1835 there. I can double click and open it and look at it just as if I was any other work order location, and I can do whatever I need at this point. When you are finished with that item from that queue, you can simply right click and remove from the queue. Now this is work order 1835, so I will remove this one from the queue, and if I go look at view work order and I look at number 1835, when I go to the notes, you will see that there is a system-generated note telling you exactly who removed it from that queue, at what time, and on what day. So the system makes a system-generated note that cannot be deleted that tells you who, date, and time that it was removed from that queue. So if we looked at my queues, view, work queue lookup, you see all of my various ones. So I can look at my review for billing, and there all of them are that I need to do. You can remove a group of them. So if I wanted to remove all of those at the same time, I can highlight the group and remove them from the queue. Now, each of those has a note on it that says that I removed it from that queue. Okay, so you can do it from the D board, and as I said, you can do it after the fact. We created this one. If you go to the General tab, a list of work queues are here. Notice that it's not in the review for billing yet because that gets put there when it is marked complete, but all of the others are there. When you are creating a new work order, it actually comes up at that time. So I could actually put it in a work queue at this moment if I so choose. Okay? Okay, well, that went fairly well. I think that's all that I have to show you right now. So let me see if anyone has asked any questions. Okay, yep, there's a whole bunch of them. Let me see if I can scroll up. I got a couple of highs and I can hear you. Lots of I can hear yous. And okay. When will S2000 be moving from pervasive to SQL? Sometime later this year. I do not know exactly when. We don't have a set date yet. We are getting ready to do our beta testing. But since you mentioned that, I do have another product here that I want to show you before we move any further. We have added a new product that is available that works with your S2000 so that you can give your customer permission to look at your S2000 and see the information on them and them only, but in a more customer viewable view. So I'm going to bring that up so I can show this to you, and I want to scoot it over to this screen. This is the way a customer would be able to see things, and this is the way a billing account would be able to see things. If you purchase this product, you would then go into your S2000 and you would give that particular customer permission to do this and give them a password. We at S2000 will set this up for you with your logos and your information. And this is for this particular customer, so you're seeing what they would be able to see, but you know how your screen normally looks. They can look at their equipment, and hopefully it's a little sooner than this. Come on. Go to meeting makes everything move a little bit slower. Okay, so, well, there's an error on that one. Customer details. And now looks like I'm going to have a problem. I had someone working on this morning, and they said, yep, everything's set back the way it should be. I apologize for that. But there is also a spot for them to be able to request a service call. And in your setup system options, there is a web settings tab, and you actually tell it an administrative password, an administrative email, a dispatcher's email, and to page the primary tech upon service request. So when someone puts in a service request, it can then immediately text someone to give them that information. Okay, and it creates that email address. This is what it looks like for a billing account. I kind of hate going anywhere in case it stops working on me again. No records found. Well, I apologize. We're having some kind of a problem with, oh, I see why. Somebody in our Australia office, our sales rep is utilizing it. So I apologize. Somebody forgot to tell him that I was going to be showing it. All right, I apologize that. 2 people trying to use the same one. Apologize. All right, so anyway, but we do have that so that you now can let your customers, they can see how much they owe you, they can see the past due notices, they can get reports on equipment history, everything that you would want them to be able to see as if they were looking right here, except no costs, obviously. No register records other than what's on the invoice. So you have that ability to do that. It is a very, very, very affordable product now. We used to have a different product that was a similar thing, but it was very expensive. We have made this one extremely affordable, and we've got some customers in Australia using it, and that's why he's showing it, and I apologize for that. All right, let me go back and see what other questions I can answer. Does the work Someone wrote, does the work the same for fixed? I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense. I'm not sure what you're asking. On the options, and you have not reopened a work order, does this work on fixed also? Oh, okay. As far as reopening the job, I think that's what you're asking. No, on your fixed price jobs, you can always add costs. They do not reopen when you add costs. So that's not a feature on that one. I believe I understand your question. It's only on the time and material. Markup. Is there a way to do markups by call type? You can do a rate sheet on a call type, and the rate sheet includes the markup. So if you don't have a rate sheet on the customer, it automatically goes by the call type. There is a hierarchy on it, on the rate sheet, so the call type is a possibility. How do you follow the tracking number on the payment tab on the work order? As I stated, that could be added to any of your current reports. It's a piece of data in the system. It hasn't been added to any standard reports, but if you've got a standard report that you want that item added to, it now is available and could be done. How do you follow the, oh, that's the same question, sorry. Will the tracking number from the work order print on the invoice, or can we write our crystal to do it? Yes, as I just stated, that yes, now you'll be able to utilize that since it's data in the system. Can you easily attach attachments to an email? Okay, let's make the assumption that you mean the ability to email directly from S2000. If I print an item to my screen, so if I print the invoice to my screen, I can now, right here has always been the picture of the printer. Next to it is one that says Export Report. If I click on Export the Report, the normal thing that comes up for most people is it comes up as a PDF, although you can do it in various formats. many of you are familiar with exporting a report to Excel. If I leave it this way, but down here where the destination usually says disk file, if you choose MAPI, MAPI exports the report in the specified format as an email attachment. Now, my email isn't open at this moment because I don't like to be distracted, so I'm not certain what error message we might get, but you hit OK. It asks you what pages you want to use or what pages you want to print, and OK, and then you type in the address, the subject line, your message. It does not check addresses. It does not know the addresses. I know it says check name, etc. here because that's our hope for the future, but it doesn't do that at the present time. So you do have to type in the email address that you want it to go to. You type your subject line, and you type in your message. And when you hit send, it opens up your email, sends it out, puts it into your sent box. It doesn't waste any space on your drive for saving the PDF. It attaches that PDF directly to the email. Okay, hopefully that was your question. If not, we can discuss it later. Can the D-board be interfaced with Microsoft Project? Not currently. Possibly when we move to the SQL version, we're expecting lots of things to be able to be working as long as, because of the being Microsoft SQL, other Microsoft products should be able to be intermingled. Can we put agreements on billing accounts? No, not at this time. Again, on the work queues, currently it is work orders only, but yes, if the question is, can leads be put into work queues? If the lead has a work order or a quote attached, yes, that work order quote could be put into a queue. And someone said, what if this is a bill out customer? But I don't know what you mean by that. On work queues, does the call have to be closed to put into the viewable queue? No. I think you probably typed that question before I went on and showed you that at any time you can put any kind of a work order, billed or not billed, into a work queue, including when you are creating it. So I have a feeling you just simply typed that question before I got to that. On the work queue, are you able to assign who is responsible for the work queue? If yes, would that show up? Currently, no, but that is planned, that you will actually do a security level or a security on a particular work queue and give certain people access to their work queue. That is still in the plan. Can you add it to the queue from the D board without completing it? Yes. In that same fashion, you would just simply go to work order properties, go here, and attach it to a queue. Okay. Can you email a lead? I think I showed that you can email actually anything. Anything that prints to the screen can be emailed. Do you have a template for importing items from Excel to a new PO? Yes, I have that template. I do see who asked the question. I will send that template to you. You can also send me an email asking me for it, and I will definitely get it out to you. Can the customer see customer comments and file comments on this view? I don't believe so. I believe unless it's made customer viewable, we don't let anybody see it. But I will have to confirm exactly what they can see. And is the web portal customizable by customer? If you mean you as my customer, we customize it with your logos, etc. The actual view, no, not at the present time. I'm not saying that it couldn't be, but at the present time it's not. But I can certainly check on that. What are the flags at the top of the screen? Okay, these are the two flags that I think you're talking about. Obviously, you're either not on version 6 or you haven't noticed that you have the ability to make custom toolbars. And that is my custom toolbar. Whenever I click on this, it's going to immediately open up my parts screen. And whenever I click on this, it's going to immediately open my PO screen. That is the part of the custom toolbar. If you are currently on version 6, if you'll go help, view release notes, you should be able to see there how to create a custom toolbar. If you're not on version 6, then when you get to version 6, you'll get that ability. If you need help, please just let me know. Can you share the cost of the web portal? Yes. The web portal is $995 plus $500 setup fee. It takes us quite a bit of time to get everything set up on servers and logos and all of that stuff. But the module itself is very reasonable, so the total cost is $14.95. That is compared to a $10,000 fee that was on the older version that we used to have. I want to be able to email multiple attachments to the customer. I can't click on the D board and click email or attachments. No, from the D board, you can simply send an email. You cannot add anything to it from there. When making the call complete, where do I set a bill out option versus receiving a payment? Well, there isn't one for a bill out option specifically, but if they didn't collect the money, you don't put anything there. And I would assume that that would therefore mean it was a bill out customer. It's automatic on your work order when you set it that it's a bill out, so there just isn't a spot. There it is a spot simply for you to say how he collected money, if he collected. Someone asked how many queues are able to be had. As far as I know, lots of them. I don't know of a specific limit. One other thing that I do need to show you on the work queues has to do with RFS. If you are using RFS, which is our product with the tablets in the field, along with the work queues, you have the ability to set up questions that your technicians can ask and answer, and therefore it will go into the appropriate work queue. So if I go to setup, setup service questions. So in my particular case, I've got a handful of questions already asked. You wouldn't want a lot of them, but I've got one where it's need quote needed. Is the customer interested in a new system quote? If the answer is yes, put it into the quote needed queue. If the answer is no, put it in the review for billing queue. These questions come up on the technician's tablet. When he marks it complete, it automatically pops up with however many questions you set up. My recommendation is probably no more than 3 or 4. So you could ask, is the customer interested in a new quote? And then if he answers yes, the system automatically will put it into that queue. If he doesn't, there is no yes or no, he just simply says yes. If he doesn't answer yes, then it's an automatic no and it goes into that one. Then I had another one that I said, are any parts needed? If it's yes, it goes into that queue. If the answer is no, it goes into that queue. So you can set these questions up, and those questions then come up on the tablets for the technician. That is available right now. Once you have gone to this newest version of S2000 that has the ability for you to set up those questions, you'll have the ability for your technicians using RFS to do that. Where will you access the queue? Like I showed you, it's view, work queue view. You choose which queue, and it does become a tab like here on its own. Okay, and yes, you just simply close it like any others. Let's go on. Can the web portal run behind the customer's website? I'm not the right person to answer that question. I will have to find out for you. How long does the installation of the new release take? About an hour. Everybody has to be out of S2000. We will start installing this newest version June 1st. I will contact everyone who's already on version 6 and by email and ask you for a scheduled date, and we'll get everybody updated as quickly as we can. For those of you that haven't moved to version 6 yet, this is the one that you're going to get. You're just going to immediately go to this version. So I've made it through all of the questions. I think. So if I find any questions here that I haven't answered, I'll certainly get in touch with you. Remember that if you want the custom tab on your work orders, let me know, and I will add that custom tab for you to your license. I hope everyone's as pleased with these new enhancements as we are. We think that the movable D-board and the work queues are two very, very advantageous new items. And thank you very much for joining us today. I apologize again for the time issue, and I appreciate you still coming and joining us. Everyone have a wonderful rest of the week and a marvelous weekend. Thank you.